Woo! That's right. We got Spaz here. I'm here.
What
I
up?
don't think Discord is working just yet, but that's okay. One hell of a night from Netflix's debut of Raw is War. One hell of a night. I loved everything we got. I sound a bit of a condescending mess to say it was a 10 out of 10, but this is about as close as perfect as you can get for a Monday Night Raw. I loved everything they gave us. This was a just strong, fierce thrust out of the gate. I don't know how you feel, Spaz, but I am ecstatic right now, riding off a high. This was just excellent, excellent, excellent. I feel like there's something here for everybody, and they brought back fans, old and new, in the best way they know how possible. I'm digging this. It's freezing. It's snowing. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully you're doing well out there in the chat. We appreciate having you here. Spaz, what was your favorite from tonight, my friend? What are your first thoughts coming away from Raw on Netflix?
I was gonna say we'll get to my favorite in a second. My immediate thought is they won because they did a whole lot by not doing too much.
Yeah, it was very simple, formulaic to a sense, but it was like the best foot forward. This is them showing what they had to offer in the best way possible. I completely agree. A lot of good moments tonight. No real out of the park knockout surprise. I mean, we knew The Rock was coming. We knew that, Cena would be there announcing things with the future. It just from top to bottom was as expected, but I still feel like in ways they over-delivered. I was very thrilled with what we got there tonight, and honestly, from top to bottom, this was a top-notch show. Getting right into it, I mean, they kicked off things with The Rock. Best way to open up the show, I thought. Really loved how it started. We got the ring being covered in a large white sheet. They used that as their main screen to start the show. And you had Triple H's cold open that was released earlier today, talking about then, now, forever, and the history, how it was a Carney dream, and Gorgeous George, all the way to Kaufman and Lawler on Late Night with David Letterman. We saw everything from WWE past and present in there, followed by Pyro. The screen drops. There's Triple H. We are WWE, and we are louder than anything you have seen before. I'm going to ask you, are you ready?
There we go.
Incredible way to start. I love the pyro. I love the history. I love everything that they gave us here. It was phenomenal. What did you think about the opening, Spaz?
The opening, here's the thing. You and I said in the preview, like, production-wise, we didn't want them to go too far. Now, they've done a lot of really cool production stuff, but I think the simplest thing they did was the most effective. Go back to, like, don't do too much. The white screens hanging around, or the white sheets, hanging around the ring and being a projector piece. In amongst all the, we've got all these LED screens, we've got all these, big, augmented reality and all the lights on the chairs because we're in a very, very up-to-date technical building. The least technical thing was the most effective because it kept everybody, I imagine being in the arena, it kept your focus where you wanted the focus to be on the ring. You didn't even have to look this way or that to the Tron, which we would typically do. Gave you a different way of looking at things. But it's on a very, very high-tech show. It was the most low-tech part of the presentation, and because of that, it stuck out the most. Yeah. And then obviously doing the drop-down for Triple H. I said it to you, and I saw it echoed sort of. I was at work today, but I was watching X every here and there, and people were speculating.
Everybody glued to social media all day just for this. Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody said what I said to you in Messenger. I really want to see Triple H do a main roster version of his "It Started as a Whisper" speech that he did at TakeOver Brooklyn.
Absolutely.
And I think this wasn't quite that because WWE, like NXT, was going from being small to being big.
Yeah.
WWE's not small by any stretch of the imagination.
No, they're just getting bigger. So this was a bit of a different type of, this was more like the history instead of like starting small and gaining size, but it had that feel. It had that takeover beginning feeling.
But is it to me, like, because you're going to all kinds of new markets. I think they said it's like 82% of the world has Netflix of some description.
Yeah.
Are you with me in the sense of like, oh, this is like when WWE is finally going to be big? Well, no, WWE is already gigantic. I think this is the first time WWE has gotten to show properly how big it already is. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. They finally had the restrictions.
They finally had the appropriate platform.
Exactly. They had the restrictions of cable taken away, because even network television isn't what it used to be. And they got upwards of, what, $30 million for Saturday night's main event? It was something incredibly crazy for their return to
we were smoking
network
pot
TV.
On the show, Jake, so it must have been on Netflix.
I know, it must have been. I mean, Travis Scott out there with a blunt, the fuck you solo chants that weren't cut off right away. Just a lot of little things. The Rock swearing up and down like a trucker. There were certain things that just made it feel incredible. Now, I also wonder, because I don't know exactly how much of tonight has to do with the Intuit Dome and where they were, but the seats lit up. They had that huge Circletron above the ring that looked incredible. I don't know if that is only in the Intuit Dome or if that's part of the new Raw stage, but I love that there were fans behind right there. We see with The Rock next to us. As he came out through the entrance, he turned around, and the fans with the small screen flex, as you love to point out, the fans being there and just being able to be in every facet of the shot. They were everywhere. They were surrounded. And the way they came out, the entrance, the pyro being placed where it was, they added drone teams. They had several drone shots. They had extra, special type of 8K cameras all around the ring. They had different crane cameras. I appreciated the change in production. I like the ending. You know, you see the production notes of Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting. Everything that they gave us on a production side truly felt massive. Like Gorilla Strong said, first true global viewership. You know, it was the chance for the world to see what wrestling is nowadays, what it can be, and what they can go ahead and take from the wrestling world. And we'll get into Hogan, you know, and yeah, you know, they do come from a liberal land of California, and you can say, yeah, it might have to do with a bit of the political nature of things, but I don't think so, because The Undertaker had Trump on his podcast not that long ago. He's a big Trump supporter, and he got cheered. I think it's just Hogan's character, his history, and all of the issues he's had, but we'll get into all of it as we go through the night. Yeah. Spaz, I mean, like you said, the intro was great, and then they got people just going right off the bat with The Rock. He comes out. He's got that people's title.
Can I cut in really quickly, because you're talking about the presentation? There were things that I thought were cool that I want to stay, and there were things that I thought were cool for the night, and if they don't come back, I'd be okay with them.
Okay.
And I think the things that I got kind of sick of after a while are the things that are specific to the Intuit Dome. I think that big Halo Tron above the ring is part of that.
I believe that's built into the dome.
They've been to other stadiums for WrestleMania that had similar setup. I think SoFi Stadium has something very, very similar to that. They kept on using it as a substitute for the graphics. Like, hey, this match is coming up. This match has already happened. So I think they thought, hey, we've got a cool thing. Let's show it a lot. I kind of got over. It doesn't matter, but I kind of got over that after a while.
I liked it, but I do think it is strictly in the dome. It's going to be to the Intuit place, so that's okay. But it certainly was historic. Yeah,
the lit up seats, I was over pretty quick, I'm not going to lie, because when you were just watching the matches, somebody pointed it out. Once again, I'm going to shout out the Wrestling for Life guys. I was tuned into their watch-along stream. Again, I'm going to recommend them to any of you guys out there that actually like watch-along content. Go check out KJ, Nick, and Anthony over on the Wrestling for Life network. They do an amazing...
awesome job over there.
They do an amazing watch-along. And shout out to Trekopedia, who was showing us love not only on our pod, but also over in their chat. So shout out to that guy as well.
But absolutely. He was right. He was right on the money. pun intended, with the Money in the Bank cash-in from Tiffany
Boom.
Stratton on Friday. He had that earmarked for happening, and he nailed it, that's for certain.
There we go. Cheap plug. First cheap plug of the night. Tune in to the State of Wrestling later this week over on my side of things. We will be covering Saudi Royal Rumble 2026. We will be covering last week's the first 3-hour SmackDown, and we will be covering whatever happens tomorrow night at New Year's Evil, including The Rock showing up.
Including The Rock. And I mean, that's gigantic as well. That's a kick in the ratings boost for WWE, but also on top of it, I mean,
on Netflix as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And
for me, anyways, not you, but
yeah, I know.
Okay,
International, we have to bring up here.
As we go, we got to start talking about the difference between your guys' stream and my stream, because the other cool thing about watching Wrestling for Life is KJ's Canadian and Nick is American, and the two of them going between, okay, I'm watching this interview happen or that interview happen. Well, I've got a Cricket Wireless commercial.
Exactly. Look at the chair phone. Phone.
Did you see any? I'm going to ask you right off the bat. Did you see any of the balcony interviews that Jackie Redmond did?
We saw one, I believe, and we saw as well when the New Day was arguing with Gabriel Iglesias up there, Mr. Fluffy. We saw
but I mean, from the balcony looking out into
just the one. Yeah, that was it. Those were pretty much commercial break
because they
spots.
They did an interview with Miz and Cross. They did an interview with Rhea and Priest after Rhea won. They did a couple of other ones as well.
That would have been awesome to keep up on. So I would have loved to have had that here. And with it being on Netflix, I really, really wanted to see more of a less reliance on commercial breaks, but it's still going to happen. I get it. I know it is the lifeblood of things here.
In the matches, it was weird because we were watching during the commercial break, like I guess you would on a live stream, but it's still sort of, when they cut to commercial break, it did fade out like it was going to a commercial and then just come back.
And then just came back and you continue to see them wrestle.
And then it faded out and it's like, welcome back to the match. And it's like, okay, but you didn't stop showing us the
ever since COVID, where they had those issues where, the international audience sees us no longer wrestling and talking to each other. So they have to treat every event like a house show now and continue the match during the commercial break. So I remember some of the Raws back in the day, around the Cena heavy eras, and they would go to commercial and everybody would just stop and it would be so awkward. Like, if someone wasn't sleeping outside of the ring, then that was it. You just saw people in the ring.
Well, didn't they released there. I mean, not that you want to think about COVID times, because anybody can joke about anything in COVID times, but like they released like background footage of them, and it's like, well, nobody's in the building, so why would we keep wrestling? And it's like, well, because you want to keep the whatever you want to call it, the momentum or the physical thread of it alive, or whatever the case may be.
Exactly, because you're going to come back and somebody's back, full of breath, and you want to go ahead and have that, full standing. So shout out to so many great people in the chat tonight. We got Triple M in there, looking sexy as ever yourself. Liz is in there, Gorilla Strong, and it was really nice to hear from Trailbound tonight. So hearing from him on Twitter was a heartwarming occasion. Haven't heard from him in a long time. Oz as well on Twitter. A lot of old people reaching out because people are coming back to wrestling with it being on Netflix. I'm so excited that people are giving wrestling a chance again, that they're actually letting the changes that have happened in the last few years, being away from Vince. We've had Triple H pretty much in control for the past year, and having his momentum finally be taken into full consideration and giving him a chance to, as we said, on a global stage, present to people this new iteration of Raw. I loved it. Yeah, they were a bit reliant on the stars of yesteryear, but not as much as I feel as they were in the past.
I think it was the appropriate ones, though. Like, you touched on, like, the Taker thing was cool. Hogan got the reaction that he got.
Yeah.
But if you're going to treat this as the historic event that it is, you have to include some of the historical figures that got you there. I don't care what you think of them. I don't care if you like what they said something mean on Twitter, or somebody told me that they did something mean once.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
Or they were recorded in private while sleeping with their best friend's wife. Even still, all of it. Hogan still, he gave us what we have now. If it wasn't for him and him being as wildly successful and popular, WrestleMania wouldn't have been a thing, and the
I mean, Taker
advancement.
too.
Taker as well,
too.
but
For
I mean,
two of
Hogan
the
brought
guys that
about
get the-
Taker, really. So, and Taker
for
tonight
two of the
was
guys that get the biggest like slings and arrows out there. I mean,
Yeah.
the third one would be Flair, and that's a whole other story altogether. But like, for these two guys that get the most, like, what you enjoy or what you claim to enjoy or what you profess to enjoy, maybe as a grift online, doesn't exist without those guys.
Exactly, and
Other
they
guys
are
as well,
the history. They are
yeah.
the history. They are all part of the history, and you know, they really did not overstay their welcome tonight. I think back to Raw 25 and how DX destroyed, the Revival and things of that nature, where we didn't get that tonight. The Undertaker put over Rhea Ripley. We got two badasses on the same screen. They didn't have him come out there and cut this long-winded promo and cut anybody down. And he came out, did a lap, went back, and Rhea should have rode off with him on the bike. That would have been funny, And
yeah, but you know what the line immediately is, and I shouldn't go on X when cool shit is happening. Oh, just another one of these old fuckers coming to steal the lady spotlight, the only lady spotlight we have on the show. Blah 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 blah.
I thought he was putting over women's wrestling, how badass she was, and how badass the match was. And
people want to bitch.
I loved. I said Leah there because I was about to say Liv and Rhea, but Liv should have been thrown on the back of the bike, and Taker should have taken her. That would have been the highlight to me. Bring her back to his.
You could have done it the other way around as well. Like if he had joined her for the entrance instead, have them come out on like tandem bikes. Like I don't know if she rides a motorcycle or not, but
could have been cool, But
kind of
Rhea should have rode away on the back.
And I will say something. I wanted to kind of throw this at you. I know we're doing this all out of order.
It has to be. That's the only way to do it, my friend.
With all the talk about, I mean, even though we know why, the Women's Intercontinental Championship being moved to next week, and people are really up in arms about that, and oh my God, representation, blah, 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 blah. Does anybody consider that the only title match that was on this show was the Women's World title? Does anybody consider that?
No. I don't feel anyone felt slighted. I don't feel like anyone. There was no tag team wrestling through the night. There was no, there was a lot of things that they didn't have that they could have realistically made time for if they wanted to. They could have made this into a showcase for the night, but that's not.
If you think about it, though, like if you look at WWE, right? There's 1, 2, 3. There's 5 titles per show, because I think that's what it works out to right now.
Yeah.
Every show has a men's, a women's, a men's mid, a women's mid, and a tag, right? So plus the women's tag team title, which floats, makes it up to 16, plus the Heritage Cup, which makes it up to 17. Yeah. Speed titles bring it up to 19, right?
Way too many.
Ridiculous titles, right? So of all those titles, the only title represented on this historic event was the Women's World title.
Yeah.
But WWE doesn't do anything for women's wrestling.
Exactly. I mean,
put a pin in my
over women's wrestling, the women's division. He made Rhea be on the level he is. She's an equal badass. They showcased one of the better rivalries that needed to end. So not only is this a great starting point for people because it's the next chapter of Rhea Ripley. So now she's putting Liv in the she's got her on the back burner. She's in the rear view mirror, and she's going to move forward, and this is going to be her build to Mania. Who does she face at the Rumble? What do we get? All these questions. And you get to start on the new adventure tonight with her. So I think that was also a great idea as well. They really tried to showcase as many strengths as they possibly could. And CM Punk being in the back with the jacket that he wore to throttle and goozle Jack Perry popped me so much.
And here's the other thing. Here's my conspiracy theory, and this is where I'm an asshole. It's fine. If you want to divorce yourself from me for a minute, it's absolutely fine. AEW can go fuck itself. Right? What was the best feud / best match AEW has given us, or got a chance to give us, was Punk MJF.
Absolutely.
Or it's at least got to be in the running, right?
Has to be up there.
Punk had that his old ROH entrance, whatever, when they had their dog collar match, right?
Yes, with AFI. Love it.
Right. So yeah, I don't know the song, but
So good. One of my favorite albums.
Oh yeah, no, it's just not a group I'm super familiar with, and I'm not familiar with Punk from that time. He wore that jacket that night, the slightly modified one with the Larry head on the front, right? So I thought, wouldn't it be really funny? And I said this to you, and I said it online. Wouldn't it be funny if he comes out with that, and then Seth Rollins, in all of his extravagant stuff, came out with like a Burberry tights, like a plaid tights, like MJF. He didn't, but he did pretty much come to the ring like the devil.
Yes. He tried to, and he
CM Punk and the devil. I'm just saying.
And they really did try to hammer that home. I loved what they gave us in that match. I mean, Punk really didn't get in a lot of offense. It all came down to him just surviving, and then at the very end, getting the best of Rollins. So they're not done, clearly. We have a lot more to look forward to, and there are so many talking points from this show. I know we won't get to them all, but Gorilla Strong made a great point. I have to state it again. He said, The Undertaker did more for women's wrestling than Ronda, Becky, or Charlotte, even Sasha, in a 2-minute segment. I mean, that's certainly a great statement because on a global level, The Undertaker, one of the biggest stars of the last 40 years, comes across and says, these women are who you need to watch out for. This women's champion in Rhea Ripley, that's money. That's who needs to be.
I get what he's saying, and with all due respect to Gorilla Strong, thanks for being in the chat, thanks for supporting us and all that kind of thing.
Is he wrong? I don't know.
With the 3 women that he mentions, I mean, Sasha Banks can go fuck herself. We know this. But the other 3 that he just mentioned just happened to be in a very particular match. And it's like, this is a huge match tonight. This was a huge night tonight, them going global, them going on Netflix or whatever. But at the end of the day, people are going to hate me for saying this. They're going to call me a hypocrite for saying this. It is still just Monday Night Raw.
Yes.
It's not WrestleMania. It's not the Mecca. It's not the be all and end all. It's not the
it was not the main event of WrestleMania.
Showcase of the Immortals, right?
Yes.
So this is okay, and they didn't main event tonight either. Of this huge, gigantic show where they got a lot of time, and rightfully so. Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda showed that you could be in the spot. The spot. Like, this is huge. This is 82% of the world watched Monday Night Raw tonight, or potentially watched Monday Night Raw tonight.
Yes.
But I'm still saying the biggest slot on the biggest show in the biggest company has, up until a certain point, was always occupied by men.
Yes. And
the ones that pushed through that ceiling were Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda.
Yeah.
No matter what you think about Ronda, and I have questionable opinions of her myself, no matter what you think of Charlotte, because how dare she be white, blonde, successful, and have an unpopular dad. Yes. No matter what you think of Becky, just because, we decided we all of a sudden don't like Becky because we want to be contrarian. There's no single step on a single night that's going to beat that.
No, Ronda transcended the UFC, and then she transcended wrestling as well. She was a larger-than-life personality who came in as a massive force not to be reckoned with, and for a while the booking sufficed to her character. I know she had a few slogs and issues, and really that's because the machine wasn't as behind her as they should have been, and then her interviews and souring towards the fan kind of really offset things. But Ronda did do a lot.
I'm sorry. Speaking of people that are really, really sour and are making the second half of their money shitting on WWE, really, really, really interesting to see Nikki Bella in the crowd tonight, or should I say Nikki Bella Hurd.
It was interesting to see her there and to see. I mean, she certainly has attacked WWE recently, but you look, Punk was in the main event, so that's why you never say never in the form of wrestling. But they started things off hot. We talked about The Rock. It was a little odd with The Rock and Cody being friendly with all the bad blood, pun intended, and everything that we have going forward. The Rock is the last one to really beat Cody, and especially being one night of Mania. He got the 3 count on Mama Roach's son. So with The Rock coming out there, he said praise to a few different people. When he first came out, he went by Ari Emanuel, and then he talked to Ted, what was his name, Sarandos, and he's in the luxury box up top and saying, "Don't make me all glitchy." That was funny. And he shouted out Cody, he shouted out The Rock, said he's going to be watching this match really close. And then he did the is cooking and took off. So he went ringside and he shook hands, like I said, with Cody, and it was odd. I know what they were going for there, but with all the history, the blood, I guess Cody could always explain it. He could say, like, anything he wants to justify it. In the moment, I accepted his, his hand and that kind of thing. But I don't know. It was still odd with all the bad blood and history. But
can I tell you why, though?
Go right ahead, please.
People are going to say that I'm giving WWE the biggest cop-out ever, and I probably am. That guy that we saw open the show tonight was not the Rock, boss. Was not the final boss, was not the guy that main evented night 1 of WrestleMania.
Yes, he was very raw.
It was
positive.
It was Dwayne Johnson, member of the TKO board, there to lend his name to the biggest event that TKO could possibly have, like their biggest groundbreaking moment. And they tried to do some sort of kind of story-ish stuff with him putting the Ulafala on Roman Reigns.
Yes.
But really, that was Dwayne. In a couple of weeks, we're going to see what The Rock is doing.
We'll see what the final boss has to bring. I'm interested by him being there tomorrow at New Year's Evil. And then, of course, I mean, do we get him and Roman now that they're on the same page? Do they face off? Do we get Cody and Rock? I mean, they're just does Rock still have no match at Mania this year, as we've heard announced at one point in time? Any of this is possible.
You know what's good? You know what could happen? And it's not going to happen. And I'm not even saying I necessarily want it to happen. Because Roman succeeded and Solo failed, and The Rock is the high chief of fucking everything. High Chief Sully. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Could he have something with Solo? I know Solo's like here and The Rock is like higher than I can reach. But is it too much of a stretch to say we try to get something out of Solo and The Rock? Like, Rock has to respect Roman now because he went into tribal combat and he won tribal combat and become the tribal chief and whatever. So, like, going with his namesake and whatever, you have to respect the guy that won tribal combat. Does he put down all of his judgment and disappointment on the guy that lost tribal combat?
It always made me wonder, too, like, shouldn't Cody really be the head of the table? Didn't he? Because since he won tribal combat, I mean, you could say the Ulafala wasn't on the line, but essentially it was tribal combat, so isn't that the point of the match? Still, regardless, him thanking Cody at the end, you made a great point. I was going to say it as well. I wanted to see if you touched on it. He's not the final boss here. He was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He was doing his PR.
From the TKO board.
Exactly. And he did everything he could to put everyone else over. And I liked it because we're not on the build to Mania yet. We're not on that road.
It's farther away than ever.
Yes.
Like, if you consider the way the calendar, I don't know if this is going to repeat next year and next year. Like, Rumble's technically in February, Chambers technically in March. WrestleMania is not till the end of April. Like, everything's a bit shifted, so there's more time to kill. I think that works out well because everybody says, "Oh my God, there's a dead period after WrestleMania," even though we've kind of put that to bed. But the supposed dead period
period used to be Christmas time. That's when they would phone it in. That's who we would get the
instead we have the New Day go heel and Seth Rollins and CM Punk put in a late entry for promo of the year.
Exactly, and instead of getting those must skip episodes, we've got a few of the must see this year in the holiday time. So and some of them were even taped episodes that still had to be viewed. So Solo Sikoa comes out, we get the "fuck you Solo" chants, and then eventually
censoring,
no bloodline with him either at this point. We get Roman coming out. He's got his, his better half with him in Paul Heyman. We get the ring introductions. Paul does his. These two start to beat the hell out of each other, and we get our first commercial break.
I gotta say it, and it's the most obvious thing ever, but especially now, like, okay, everybody steps their game up because we're on a brand new platform, because more people are watching us, because more people are listening to us, etc. You know who never flinches?
Who?
Heyman.
Yes.
Heyman is so fucking good. It's unreal.
He's been bulletproof for so long, and he's gotten his flowers many times over, but he deserves them endlessly.
But it never becomes any less true, and it somehow piles up on itself. And it always feels like, even at WrestleMania, because he didn't do it. He let Samantha Irving do it. I don't know what the reasoning behind that was. He just stood there with his, with his Hall of Fame ring.
Yes.
But, like, even when he's not saying anything, Paul Heyman elevates whatever Paul Heyman is that day to the event, and I don't think tonight was any exception.
No, him being there elevated the story.
The story is Roman Reigns, and, like, everybody knows that Paul Heyman is good, but that means nobody takes the time to point out that Paul Heyman is really fucking good.
No, I'm glad you pointed out that he's really fucking great, because he added to this on a few levels. He really did. He went ahead and he made it, not only, as I said before, feel must-see, but he made it feel like revenge was being served finally. It's like, oh, good, you guys put me through a table. We got War Games. We got, the tag match, but it's not the same here. Since Roman lost, Paul Heyman and his wise man, we haven't really had that, hey, I'm going to get revenge for Paul moment.
The
and
promo that he
like
cut on SmackDown as well, and I don't know if you picked up on this the same way I did. It's the first time he's spoken in the first person. Everything he does is for Roman, talking on behalf of Roman, talking about Roman.
Yes.
When he gave his promo last week on SmackDown, and as I say, we're going to talk in more detail on SmackDown and on another night very, very soon. But it was the first time that he had a little bit of, hey, Solo, we're coming for you. Like me and my buddy Roman, not just I'm here to represent the tribal chief and he's going to prove what he is and da-da-da. No, like, we're a little bit closer now. We're coming for you. He's going to get revenge for me. He didn't say it that way, but, like, he's coming at you for what you did to me.
Exactly.
Like, whereas normally Paul Heyman's very, very happy to be the punching bag, because that's typically what the storyline
that's typically his role. Great point. See? And I couldn't agree more. So Roman at one point, he's attacking Solo with a chair, and the crowd is chanting for tables, and he tells the fans, hey, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to be patient. Not yet. So he goes for a concerto after hitting one hell of a Uranagi slam onto the chair for a near fall. And he goes, and I'm like, God damn, it just, I didn't see the concerto and that, attempt going to happen. And then he misses. And that's when Solo, like I said, gets the low blow, the Uranagi, the near fall. And it just continually built up. So we get to the point where it looks like Roman's going to win. He puts Solo through a table with one hell of a last ride.
And they called it a last ride.
They
too.
did indeed. I love the call. And
a little bit of foreshadowing.
Cole is as white as they get. We saw that during the Jey Uso entrance when Cole was also yeeting. No doubt hilarious with Travis Scott smoking. But I did love Pat and Cole tonight. The two of them together were excellent. Cole was very analytical, but yet fun still. He wasn't in that nerdy, redundant phase that he gets into, because Pat kept it very light, fun, and
Pat is really
casual.
Like, I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, and we've talked about commentary and specifically Pat McAfee before, but Pat McAfee really does take a little bit of the fan voice and give it a little bit of that, like, if we were in his spot, we'd be thinking, holy shit, this is pretty fucking cool. So he kind of sits there and says, holy shit, this is pretty fucking cool.
Exactly. And he soaks it in, he loves it, and he makes sure it works. And that's what I love about this man, and God damn, did they just sell everything so well tonight. I agree, Liz. I love Pat, and he's just so damn good. So this is
Did you get the feeling that I got where
What's that?
it was basically because it was the last time we did Tribal Combat, but this was basically a mini version of what they did at WrestleMania.
Yes, you took the words out of my mouth, because right now we get Roman about to win. He's got him down, and then all of a sudden the ref starts to count, and Tama Tonga pulls the ref out of the ring, and that's when Jacob Fatu comes in and hits him with a DDT and destroys him. We get the Samoan spike from Solo. Somehow Roman kicks out at 2. And this is where Jimmy Uso and Sami Zayn make their triumphant entrance. They come out to help Roman. We get super kicks and haluva kicks from everybody. The crowd chanting, "This is awesome." And then what happens? Roman goes going for the spear, but he gets stunnered by Kevin Owens out of nowhere. And now as the fans are counting for Cody, Kevin Owens sets up Roman for a pile driver. He's taken out Cody. He's still out of action is Randy Orton from that pile driver from Cody, or from Kevin Owens, excuse me.
That's right. We haven't seen him, have we?
No. So now we get Cody Rhodes making his entrance, and he shoves Reigns aside, and he hits Owens, and he gets him with a great cutter, and they battle out over and out of the arena. And, Reigns gets up, he hits that Superman punch, but Solo, he blocks it. And then Roman avoids the thumb for the spike, gets the spear, he plays to the crowd, he hits another spear. 1, 2, 3.
Boom.
He regains the Ulafala. He is now the tribal chief, the OTC, the one true chief. And I love Heyman falling to his knees, tears in his eyes, and he holds the Ulafala out, and Reigns gets down on one knee.
Reigns is on his knees, too. That's the thing. It's the first
Well, he gets down on his knees here, and then as soon as he nods his head, The Rock's music hits. And I didn't expect to see The Rock come back out. He said he's going to watch the match
because
close.
he came up behind. Because he was...
you're right. His music didn't hit. He just walked out.
He just kind of walked out because he was... shout out to the camera work all night, but specifically for this, because you had Heyman on his knees and Roman on his knees, and they're just kind of soaking in the moment. And even when they stood up, it was maybe and again, maybe I'm going to throw it back to you. Maybe you see it differently. This is the first time where Roman has kind of felt like, I got a victory, and I'm a good guy, and I'm enjoying it with the crowd. I'm not shouting it at the crowd. I think this more solidifies, like, he's a good guy because he's a good guy. He's not just a good guy because he's fighting bad guys.
Absolutely.
And when that happened, Rock came out and everybody thinks, oh, okay, this is where it happens. This is where he goes to shake his hand and rock bottom him. But no, and this is what leads me back to the whole, it's not The Rock, it's Dwayne. And
because you're right, because Roman's entrance was still playing at this point. And, like you said, the camera work was great. And the fans are chanting OTC. Rock takes his glasses off and he's looking in his eyes. And then you get the bro handshake, So the Outrunners can't be happy for that gimmick infringement. But we get the Predator handshake. And Rock kisses him, says, I love you, and they walk out. So Rock holds the ropes for him and they walk out.
This is what I couldn't help but thinking of in this particular moment, because it's... I don't know if it was an intentional look back or whatever, but when Roman was still, suffering succotash, good guy, Cena 2.0 Roman, what did they do? They gave him the Rumble one year, and they sent The Rock out there to raise his hand. And how well did that work? Not at all.
The Rock had that puzzled look on his face while he's just pointing. That,
Now,
like, how could you boo me face?
So Roman celebrating... The Rock celebrating with Roman, not putting Roman over, just being there to celebrate with him. 10 times more successful than, say, 10 years ago, where they sent The Rock out and said, please raise his hand. We got to get these people on board with something.
So we no final boss here, no retaliation, you lost the title, none of this yet.
No finding out what The Rock put in Cody's hand the Monday after WrestleMania.
We still have to wait. And
still don't know.
And there's so many of those threads that we're holding out on with this bloodline story. What is CM Punk's one favor to Heyman? What is, there are a lot of
I still think what he put in
things.
Cody's hand after WrestleMania was a Royal Rumble ball with a 30 on it.
Really?
I've heard it,
but he said you would know what it is just by holding it. So I mean that could work. I mean he would recognize. Yeah, there's.
I'm going to say
something
there's a certain part of the internet that's going to burn itself down if the last two people in the Rumble this year are The Rock and John Cena.
Exactly. So we will get into that shortly, and that's when we saw the first showing of Mr. Fluffy, Gabriel Iglesias himself, Ashton Kutcher, Michael Che, Topanga was there with Eric Matthews. There was a lot of stars there. Michael O'Shea was one. There was a few others. But the biggest star of them all made his entrance. John Cena comes out with a new shirt saying the last time is now. Got to get me that shirt. I love it.
God damn, they're making one of those shirts for every city.
Right? So Cena says, last round, let's go to work. And he runs in and he said, damn, there's people everywhere. I love that, as you literally saw people hanging from the rafters.
Sorry, as your pictures are sort of cycling through here, I'm kind of like being distracted quite easily because it's late. The stage.
Yes.
Can we talk about the stage for a second?
I loved the stage here.
All the people behind the stage, same as it was at WrestleMania. I hope that becomes a more permanent thing. I hope they keep the numbers up so that it can stay a permanent thing. The opening in the stage that has the LED screens leading into it.
Yes.
Love that.
I love that as well.
It reminds me of the stadium stuff that they only get when there's no stage at all, really, and they have like a walkway instead.
Exactly. And
it leads me to
I love it so much.
Leads me to something totally not having anything to do with tonight. Hypothetical that I was going to save for a couple of nights from now, but I'm going to throw it at you right now. So TNA back in the day and AEW now have the two tunnels, the babyface, the heel tunnel.
Yes.
Right? How would you feel about this? And this would be more of a psychological, like storytelling tool type thing. Imagine an arena with no stage whatsoever. 4 tunnels in the 4 corners of the arena.
Okay.
Babyface and heel tunnels for when you're entering. Winner and loser tunnel for when you're leaving.
That would be fun. Because this way you're always going through the crowd. You're always being featured, somewhere. So it's a different interaction. The people at home get kind of the same layout. I think it could be,
I think the entire storytelling thing of you're the loser, you have to walk down the loser's tunnel, and obviously the winner's tunnel is like very celebratory and whatever. But it's taking that idea that AEW basically stole from TNA and flipping it on its head and giving it a much more psychological. Because we all know when there's babyface and heel tunnel, when a good guy is having a bad time and all of a sudden he walks down the other tunnel and maybe,
like, uh-oh, what's that about?
Maybe he goes and gets drunk with some jobbers for a while and then slaps a batch of baby batter up his wife and gets handed a title in 6 months. Just saying, I'm not mentioning any names. I'm not mentioning any names.
That's cowboy shit. I don't want to go there, but
it's just shit. But I'm thinking like a winners and a losers tunnel for leaving.
Yeah, no doubt.
And plus, like putting the 4 tunnels in the 4 corners of the arena and having absolutely no stage gives you more room for people if you're a company that can fill an arena. Anyway,
I totally forgot that Trailbound was at that Royal Rumble in Philly with The Rock trying to hold up Roman Reigns at the end there.
Hey.
Liz might be going to Raw in Nashville next month. That would be awesome. Raw at MSG is always, MSG show is always a goal of mine. I was supposed to go after Christmas, wasn't able to. I'm glad that Cody went, but I always want to get to the world's most famous arena. That's definitely on my bucket list.
I was going to say I'm not much of a traveler, but MSG is definitely on my list.
Right, exactly. So on the list of WWE is John Cena. He said it's been 2,446 days since he won his last match. And he said, that's why I'm doing this. My time is up. Their time is now.
As soon as he said that, I thought somebody was going to interrupt him and he was going to have like a 2-second impromptu match against the jobber.
I kind of had that
we
feel too.
We speculated that,
yes.
like that he would be interrupted by Theory or Waller or
someone along those lines.
It was a catch-22 of like everybody's there from every show. Like even like imagine like Josh Briggs steps up to him and says, "Oh, this is going to be my moment." boom, no, it's not.
Exactly. 2 seconds.
And it's like,
later.
I guess I've broken my losing streak, so now I can, go to the Rumble.
So exactly, John's like, crazy idea. Maybe I can go to the Rumble, and you can't win if you don't play. So I'm gonna enter. You want some? Come get some. I'm gonna win the Royal Rumble. And here's the thing: we have 1 year left of John Cena. I know he says never say never, and he might come out of retirement 5 years from now to do a one-off at Mania or something. But this is
Saudi.
his last year. Yeah, this is it. We've
He'll
already
show
got
up
the
in the
Saudi
Saudi
Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll talk
Jinx
more
Poke.
about that on Thursday.
Owe me a Coke for that one, but we got a lot to cover there. What is
I
Punk's
don't have any
injury
Coke.
going to be?
TK took it all.
What is Punk's injury going to be for the Rumble next year? I'm curious, but
fair,
the crowd
fair.
ate this up. They love Cena. Could you see him winning the Rumble? I could. I don't think it's happening, and here's why I don't think it's happening. My thought is simply enough. I think that John Cena is going to fail, and then when it becomes finally his last attempt, that's when he will rise to the occasion. I think he's not going to make the Rumble. He won't win. He's not going to win the Chamber. Maybe he'll win Money in the Bank. I think that's where they're going with it. I think you're going to see John Cena win to cash in, or at least cash in for his final match at SummerSlam or elsewhere. But I think that they're going to have Cena repeatedly lose to build up the tension of, oh my God, my last year, I'm running out of time. Let me make my last effort here, and my cash in again will be to claim a match at wherever, like he did previous. So
I don't think he's going to take up a world title slot at, I was going to say at a big four, but for my idea, it kind of has to. I think he's going to have like a couple of attempts throughout the year just randomly. And I think we're going to get to like November.
okay.
And either at Survivor Series or if there is a Saturday night's main event in the same month, the way they seem to be lining up, I think he like wins it in November, loses it in December, and calls it a day.
Yeah,
I think
Spaz,
it's really quick.
I don't want to cut you off here, but I am a little concerned. Punk is on a post-show eating muffins.
Oh dear.
So he's sitting down at a press conference right now with a box of muffins in front of him. Should we be frightened?
I don't know. Are there any little children pretending to be wrestlers in the back in Las Vegas or
with all the celebrity there? It could be. There's a lot of celebrities in the building, so
oh dear,
it could
be.
So
CM Punk versus Topanga signed for WrestleMania, and it's not gonna be the main event, and he's gonna choke out Nick Khan.
That's how my daughter was born. But hey, look at that. Logan Paul video comes out, and he's like, I've never wasted my time, and I'm not going to wait my turn. I've never fallen in line. That's not me. And then he's like,
oh, speaking of which, sorry, that was the thing that we missed in the Cena promo when he starts rhyming off like, oh, I bet everybody's got ideas of who they want me to face. Punk gets a huge pop. Cody gets a huge pop. Logan gets a huge boo.
But isn't that a match you would love to see?
Oh, of course.
I was a little disappointed because all they did was cut to Logan Paul in the crowd. He's like, no more side hustles or bullshit. I'm 100% a WWE superstar. And he's like, this is the new era of Paul. But now he's a part of Raw, and there was rumors for how long that he was going to retire. He wouldn't return to wrestling, and here he is. So,
he did retire. He retired from SmackDown.
Yes. And, I mean, there's also been talk of him facing Conor McGregor again in boxing. So, I mean,
oh dear.
Heels lie, he can do shit, I get it, but I'm curious where they go with this. Then, as we touched on earlier, Seth Green, Macaulay Culkin, O'Shea Jackson, Danielle Fishel, and others in the crowd. Then they cut to your favorite Bianca Belair, Naomi, and X-Pac next to Nakamura. A little bit of an odd cluster of people, but that's okay. I love them having...
It was a little bit more natural than when they kept on cutting to that party in the back that was just like LWO, Katana, and Kaden.
Yeah, just being like, yeah!
New Day looking angry.
And New Day just...
Now, before that, did you see the interview backstage that they did before that where they tried to cut in on somebody else's interview time and they tried to get some promo time. That we want to talk about why we did what we did to Big E, but
nobody will give us a
shot.
time. We're here on Netflix, and we should be able to talk. Yeah, they did that with Fluffy, and that was okay. But
oh yeah, no, that was late. That was later on in the night. There was one up in that balcony with Jackie Redmond that I was talking about.
That we did not see. Yeah, you said you saw the New Day at this point,
and it was basically
like, yep, we got commercials.
I think they were trying to wave away the fact that a lot of people thought the Ray and Penta match was happening tonight, and it's like, well, yeah, Hunter wanted us to wrestle, but these people don't deserve to see us wrestle because we've never gotten to tell our story.
Again, a bit later in the night, but we did have a bit of a proclamation made with Mr. Chad Gable saying he wants to face the best luchador you can find. Seems like we're getting Penta next week. I mean, we had a graphic tonight. It seems like we're getting Penta's
where it actually
debut.
says Penta on his face. It's like, I don't know. I don't think they're being on the nose enough.
Literally not on the nose enough. So
I don't mind that, though, because for two things, if you're debuting, you want to be like one half of a match. Debuting as somebody's partner, you're only a quarter of the match, so to speak.
Yes.
And everybody and their mother is going, oh, there's Triple H being racist, putting all the luchadors together. And it's like, oh, you mean the people that might actually have a natural reason to want to tag together?
Yes, exactly.
You don't bitch about it with the New Day. You definitely don't bitch about it with the Hurt Syndicate, but let's bitch about it with something that could be really awesome.
Exactly.
I did like, who was it? It was somebody from What Culture. It was either Wilborn or Hamlet that said, if the match had happened tonight, wouldn't it be funny if New Day comes out, Ray comes out, says, here's my partner, da-da-da-da-da. Bell rings, he turns on Ray and breaks his arm.
Yes.
And then New Day get the cheapest victory ever.
Well, here's the thing with debuts, too. Like, unless it's going to be a real surprise, you want people to know, hey, this is a foregone conclusion. You want it to be expected because that's what drums up the hype, the sense of grandeur, the expectation, to make it feel larger than life. That's what we want here.
But if
look at when Punk came to AEW, everybody knew that he was going to debut on that Rampage episode without them confirming it. It was like, oh, this is a given, and that's what made the hype so surreal. Right, same thing here. Penta's coming to a WWE ring that we never thought would happen.
CM Punk debuted and said the first person I want to fight is Darby Allin. He didn't show up on Rampage and say, you know what, I'm going to be Darby Allin's surprise tag team partner against the Young Bucks or some bullshit.
Exactly.
Because if you're debuting, you don't want people to see you not doing anything. And
yes, I'm sorry, the focus to be on you. We know Penta can deliver, and him and Chad are going to fucking kill it. So
it's going to be awesome. Wait. As much as tag team wrestling is a thing, tag team wrestling always could use being a bit elevated, right? If you're a singles star making your debut and you tag out and now Ray's in and whatever, because swap out one Ray for another, that's a whole other conversation we could have. But so there's your brand of the four of them. There's your brand new debuting guy standing on the apron.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Now, if it was the Lucha Brothers coming in together, if Tony Khan wasn't being a cunt, that would be a different story altogether. It would be them doing as a tag team, and
then they'd likely be on SmackDown, but
with Motor City Machine Guns.
It seems like that would have been.
We're gonna get that at some point, aren't we?
Yeah, we might. It seems like that's gonna be the way.
Lucha, seeing as Motor City Machine Guns are on SmackDown, I guess it could be the Lucha Brothers taking on my guys, Finn and JD.
Yeah. And speaking of your guys, we had your girl. So Rhea Ripley came out with Liv Morgan taking on each other for the world title. Finally going to end this feud after what feels like has been about a year's worth of time. And I really love how they had the numbers game stacked against Rhea here in such a way that it made her feel even more like a strong commodity, like a real person not to be trifled with. No matter what Raquel and Dom did to stack the deck against her, she just was going to overcome. And that's exactly what happened. So,
you know what I didn't notice until this match?
What's that?
How narrow the entrance ramp was.
It really was very, very narrow.
It was very, very narrow,
small.
very, very similar to what they did for Saturday night's main event. But I didn't notice it until Rhea Ripley came out. Because Rhea Ripley, not that she doesn't already, Rhea Ripley looked 10 fucking feet tall when she walked out into that stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. There are levels to what you see. And I'm not trying to jump on AEW here, but their women's division could be stellar, but it always feels like it's lacking, and that's a lot of the way that they showcase and produce said women. Rhea comes out and she commands. Can I just say
a fatal 4-way match for the World Global Best in the Building Championship that got won because somebody hit somebody else in the face with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and I like Athena, man. That ain't right.
No, she's one of my favorites, and she has been for a long time. And
she got fucked.
It just, why not give that to her after the run she's had in Ring of Honor for all this time? And it was very disheartening.
As somebody who does, I am not familiar with Persephone or I'm going to get this wrong, Momo Watanabe.
Yeah, you got it.
As somebody who isn't familiar with either of those two, I had a lot of fun. Cole's Notes version, I actually did sit down and watch Wrestle Dynasty because I was bored and I had nothing else to watch, and there were some people on there that I actually wanted to see. The return match with Kenny was a lot of fun. There was some other good stuff on there. AEW is just soaking up all of New Japan's belts, but let's pick on NXT for their relationship with TNA.
They're soaking up New Japan's belts, but yet they're destroying their attendance. That was abysmal for the Dome over there. The Tokyo Dome.
Bro.
Empty.
Takeshita has 2 belts. The Bucks got their belts back. Sasha fucking Banks has 4 belts. She was sucking that. She's sucking that good international dick. But no, what I want to say before that shitty like baseball bat finish, I had a lot of fun with that 4-way, and not that I think anybody in the match was bad, but I was like really surprised by how much I was enjoying that. And then it's like, oh, it won with a baseball bat to the face.
Yeah. Oh, they take the air out of your sails. See, all I saw was the ending of that
involved
one.
In this? You don't say.
You don't say.
And that's why chair shots too. Anyways, let's talk about friggin'
Rhea goes to put Liv Morgan through the announce table, and the table does not break. We go to a commercial break then, and when they come back, somehow you hear Michael Cole say, "Oh, well, Liv Morgan was dominating Rhea the entire time." So maybe you got to see a bit more of the action, but. I like that Dom slipped in the chair. Raquel tried to go ahead and get involved after, and that's when Liv got the 3 amigos that she hit those perfect, looked great. Little tribute to Eddie Guerrero and the legacy.
There was a little bit during what I guess was the commercial break for you guys. There was a little bit of a speed beating strength stuff on the outside of the ring, but it was.
I like Liv's motivation too, because she's not trying to do things to pay tribute. She wants to be a bitch and she wants to mock things. So, like you said, having that I could be faster, you're stronger, what can be accomplished here, really kind of their conflicting styles sold well together.
It's a really underrated thing to be, and we say it all the time on the men's side with somebody like a Dolph Ziggler. It is an uncountable value to be really good at being thrown around.
Yes.
And Liv Morgan is awesome at that. And what she had on the outside during it's hard for me to place all the time where you guys had your commercial breaks. There was a couple spots on the outside. Yeah, they were mostly driven by interference. There was a couple spots where it's like, okay, if you're going to be strong, I'm going to be fast. It was good, but it was generic. Yeah. So it's nothing to write home about, but they both did their part and Liv did her part.
Yeah, and then, of course, Liv gets turned into a friggin' rag doll by being hit with 2 riptides for the pinfall, folded in half.
Stupid, sexy Rhea pin.
Right?
Jesus
11
Christ.
minutes, 40 seconds later, we got a new Women's World Champ. And the only title change of the night goes to the ladies as well. So
the only title match?
Yes, only title match and change.
People saying, the Ula Follow was kind of like a title match. It's like, okay,
no,
come on,
but it wasn't.
Stretching.
And you made note of that earlier with this being the only title match. So just to restate that here, I love that Dom at the end was like, "Hey, you're not gonna kill me. We can get back together. You got
Michael
the belt.
Cole calling
Come
him a
on."
gold digger.
Yeah, I loved the commentary tonight. Really, like they weren't irritating or childish or annoying at all. They felt very grounded and casual in the sense of like, hey, I know we're going to get people that haven't watched in a long time, so we're not going to be as technical about things. Like the last ride and stuff like that.
And the big criticism is like, oh my God, there's so much exposition. It's like nobody ever pays. Like there's so many people around the world that may be watching this for the first time.
Exactly. So anytime they stuffed in a little bit more,
exposition heavy shit all the time. There was a point where WWE did it all the time, every week.
Yes,
but this is
because they would tell, not show, and we would get these long-winded promos and the stupid diatribes and all the bullshit, and it was like, come on, please. So I would have loved to have seen.
But it's one of those things where, like, yeah, it bothers me, and yes, I roll my eyes. But in this case, if you're ever going to do it, this is the time that you do it.
This is the perfect time, yeah, and. It was good to see Rhea get the better of all of them. She destroyed Liv. She finally beat up Dom. She kicks him in the balls and gives him a riptide. She took down Raquel before, so it really feels like all of that is just done for. It's a foregone conclusion. She's going elsewhere. Her and The Undertaker are going to hook up in the back. He's going to give her the pile driver. That's right, going for the tombstone.
Let me ask you, because we speculated on this, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I was still wrong. I thought Rhea Ripley was going to get screwed one more time, and she was going to go be like the star of SmackDown. Do you see Liv Morgan / Liv and Dom / maybe the whole fucking Judgment Day going over to SmackDown and being the sort of the faction on SmackDown, considering there's so many rumors that so much of the Bloodline stuff might be coming to Raw?
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the Bloodline stuff is coming to Raw because of the Netflix change, and SmackDown's going to need a lot at this point in time. I mean, they only have a 2-hour made roster, not a 3. So they are going to have to...
Well, apparently that's going back to 2 hours.
In the summertime, yes. So they're not getting paid for the third hour by USA, I guess. So they're only going to be doing this for so long. Interesting, but
I think in the meantime, like, if we prove that you can make the most of that third hour, maybe that'll be renegotiated. But I want to say something right now. Up on your graphics on your screen right now, you've got the Netflix logo where they're all tearing through it, and
yes, indeed.
I'm torn as to whether that's really awesome or really lame.
I love it.
But it's the ad for Raw, and look at the 3 people that are tearing through the logo.
Oh, absolutely. Roman, Cody, and Bianca.
Who are all on SmackDown right now.
Exactly.
Which sort of spoils where you're gonna go. But kind of like what they had to do with Legado and LWO, like they had to split them and put them on 2 different shows. I don't think you can move the whole Bloodline story to Raw. I think you have to, like, maybe leave the remnants of the good Bloodline on SmackDown and bring the bad Bloodline to Raw. Because what does Solo do now that he's, like, lost decisively?
It's certainly leaves a lot of question. I mean, does he still lead these other guys? Is there even a Bloodline if he's not the tribal chief? There's a lot to go off of here.
Because I've never seen them, and my introduction to them is literally them in WWE. I'd love to see the Guerrillas of Destiny just go off and have a tag team run.
I would as well. And see, here's the thing, though. They set up a lot tonight, but there's not a definitive path as to where it's going to go. So Rhea's going to be taking on new people, and, but we don't know where Judgment Day is definitely going to end up. Seems like a SmackDown thing. Tiffany Stratton is now the champ, so does she have a quick thing with Nia and then face somebody new in terms of the Rumble, like a Naomi or somebody else? There's questions to be had, and that's what I love, because as much as things could have been and felt generic at times, again as well, they really didn't. They felt exciting and they felt larger than life, and whether that was the production value, the arena, all of the above. And I will say this is the best Raw to me has looked ever.
Yeah. Other than the lights and the seats. That was the thing. That was the thing I was trying to get around to before.
Even that I didn't mind, because you said during the matches they would just kind of go stagnant and be one color.
No, I found it kind of distracting. Where I was going to go. But somebody else pointed it out on the other stream that I was watching. Is some of the spots in the arena, and again, it's just aesthetic stuff. It's not like quality of the show stuff.
No,
some of the places that were lit up by that made it look like there was nobody sitting there, so it looked like empty sections.
Okay,
because of how the light in the dark was.
Yeah,
I would say if you're going to use something like that, use it for to make entrances look cooler. Don't leave it on during the matches and maybe light the crowd better, which is usually a criticism that we give to the other guys.
Taylor Swift's the most recent one I could think of, but they did it for the Xbox conference and others where they have the light up bands.
Oh, yeah.
When people come out, they have them all in sync and stuff like that. Like that's the kind of idea I thought they were going for entrances. I wasn't crazy about them leaving it on during matches, like you said, because it does make some of the seats look empty, but. The look for the matches for the entrances with the lights and the pairing and all that looked incredible. The halo up top, the circle screen, I did enjoy. I have heard 2 people say now that had an Intuit logo at the bottom, so that is for the arena only.
Yeah.
So it looks like that'll stay there.
But it does. But here's the thing, though. It does give us another thing to maybe speculate on as we go forward. Okay, this is what the new version of Raw looks like. What does the new version of Raw look like in a more regular building?
Exactly.
Like, what are they going to look like if they go to MSG? What are they going to look like if they go to the Barclay? What are they going to look like if they go to Scotiabank?
Nothing has that foregone conclusion. Use that word again. Set of words. It's just nothing's definitive. Nothing is locked down. There's no it's always going to end at 11. No, it can end at 11:30. It can end at 10:50. I like that because we're back to that.
They were pretty much out on the
anything can happen.
Mark,
Spaz. Yeah, they were. They were right at like 11:10. I think by the end, 11:08. Yeah. And it was like...
But even on TV, they used to have that 15-minute overrun.
Which I loved on Raw because it wasn't a definite. It was, hey, this could happen. We have the chance to go over. But you didn't know that they were going to go over every week, and they didn't always go over. But it was cool to
Whereas when NXT went to CW, they were cut off right at the 2-hour mark, and we've missed a couple of things.
Yes, they've had moments where they've had to run out of time, and, hey, you guys got to come back and fix a little bit of that time management. But, yeah, they have a heart out.
Talking about some of the more aesthetic stuff like that, 3 things: the announce table, the referees, and obviously we got to talk about the ring canvas. The announce table looking like a more indestructible looking, like more robust announce table makes something harder for them to land on.
Yes.
Awesome. The referees in the black shirts looks badass.
And I like that they brought out the ref cam as well. Again, I know that's nothing new, but still, it was a fun little addition with everything else.
I still, of all the drone shots, big shots, 8K camera shots, of all the different things that they've done, the one that I can't stand is the ref cam.
Really? See, I don't mind that because they don't go to it often. So
it's I think they did the first night for the dedicated drone camera team in WWE. I think they had a cool night.
They had a great night.
The referee cam just it's not
for you.
Quite.
See, it's not quite for me. During certain points where like a submission or a pinfall if they cut in close, but it depends on how they use it and where they cut to it. But all in all, like you said, the ring mat we weren't sure about. Yeah,
the ring mat. How do you feel about the ring mat?
Earlier in the day, it was yet to be completely set up. So we're like, hey, is there ads? Is there not? We weren't sure. I didn't mind the blue with SmackDown. I prefer the black. I think the red would not have worked well.
Yeah, I don't think red would have worked.
No. Even though the blue works, I don't think the dark red would have worked. So I like that they had the black mat.
It's a light enough blue that if you glanced at it, you would think it was just a normal ring canvas. That's how I think. If it was like the blue of the SmackDown logo, it would be a no.
That would be jarring. Same thing with the bright red. We've done them with the red lights before, the red Hell in a Cells. They look like toys. So this was definitely a better way for them to put the advertisements on the ring mat. And the logos didn't bother me because they were pretty non-invasive.
Yeah. Now, I do hope they go the same as they did with the Prime bottle. Remember when it was like the very first time they revealed it was in full color and then they faded it to like a single color?
Yes.
I hope they do that along the way.
Well.
But even with the ads on the mat, I was still happy to have a black canvas again because I'm old school NXT like that.
I like the black canvas. I like the look. And
I wasn't noticing it like after like we got 5 minutes into the first match. So
absolutely. So. But yeah, out of the 3 things you brought up, no, I did not mind the mat at all. I
referees in the black shirts, it looks cool.
Looks great.
Apparently they're going back to, somebody said online, they're going back to the old Do you remember when there was actually a brand split where there was actually separate pay-per-views and the SmackDown referees actually had the blue jersey shirts?
Yes.
Apparently, they're going back to something like that for SmackDown, which is fine.
I'm okay for that. That sounds good as well.
I don't know what that means for NXT, but
yeah. Hey, next up we got Drew McIntyre taking on Jey Uso, and this was another. All the matches tonight were damn good, but they were pretty concise, pretty consolidated, and didn't have anything.
Little bit quiet. On
yeah,
this one. The crowd was a little bit quiet on this one, but
nothing crazy spectacular. But it was damn good, and it was good enough that it really drew in
the roll up pin.
The roll up pin was so good. McIntyre again goes for another Claymore. Jay ducks in the last second, and then just gets him with a roll up. That any given Sunday, like, hey, I got you. I haven't beaten you before, and I took advantage of you being so cocky and arrogant, thinking you had this match won, that I used your motivation against you. And I love when that happens. When it's portrayed in a positive light, like a hey, you screwed yourself, not I just rolled you up. So
yeah.
I like what they conveyed here. Drew can do it, but he keeps screwing himself over with his attitude and his arrogance. So the crowd was a little quiet, but they reacted to the big spots, and it seemed like they were a little bit tired after all the cheering and raucous shit. I mean, they got Rock, they got Cena, they got Roman. I mean, they still have Punk coming out. It was the least.
It was the least. I mean, not that there's no story between Jay and Drew, but it was the least built up.
Yes, least amount of story, least amount of
like Drew being upset
all
that Jay is on Raw was a story from like several months ago that they just kind of picked up and said, oh yeah, we still got this on the back burner. Not that that's a bad thing, like recognize things that have happened in the past, but it did kind of feel like they just sort of threw it on there at the last minute, whereas everything else was built to a little bit more.
And that was okay because it shows that they can do things not so much on the fly, but it's like, hey, we have enough breadth and enough roster depth that we can take a match out of anybody and make it into something worthwhile because everybody connects again with those spiderweb throughputs that I love. And it's like, hey, Jay and Drew, they haven't really interacted a bit. What's all this bullshit? Oh, wait, all this history we can go off of. And then there's more to and then the fact that Jay beats Drew here, they don't have to have a rematch next week again to see who's better. Like, we can have this touched on weeks from now. But I like that Drew wants to take out everybody that teamed with Roman and Punk. He blames the bloodline for all of his downfalls and Punk for everything bad. So Drew's got these great motivations, and he's amazing online. Probably my superstar of the year up there, certainly with others. And my God. So Reigns is backstage. He's got Paul Heyman.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I got two theories about tonight that I want to talk about.
Yes,
one I'm going to save until after we talk about the main event. But the other one is not really a theory, more so an observation on my part, going back to our predictions and whatnot. When we did our predictions for this initially, we were thinking about, okay, what's going to happen? Is this just going to be a happy ending match? Is this just going to be another link in a chain of a story? If we get something really cool and happy over here, I bet they're going to give us a piss-off ending over here. Right. But, I said it about this match specifically. I said, you know what? If you just want a quick feel-good match, you give Jay a win. Everybody likes Jay. It won't hurt Drew. But they just looked at the 4 matches on the night and said, why don't we just do 4 feel-good endings? Because Roman winning, feel-good ending. Rhea getting her title back, getting her final vengeance on everybody involved, feel-good ending. Jay beating Drew, feel-good ending. And obviously, if you know who I support, the main event had a feel-good ending as well.
Absolutely.
But there is a further thread that ties all these results together, and I'm going to mention that.
All right.
After we
we'll
talk
get
about
to that when
Rollins.
we get to the main event.
Yeah.
And on our way there, we're going to give a shout-out to Casey as Raw in the chat. Got to pop over to his show at some point, but thank you for tuning in.
I am trying to keep up with the chat.
Yeah, hey, you know,
Trying to multitask and failing horribly.
We do what we can. So then we had Hulk Hogan come out after we saw Roman backstage enter the WWE 2K25 logo door. So that's cool. We're going to have some. They did put out some pressers, some images of the new engine stuff they're using and some of the different stuff they have. So the characters look great.
Apparently, the announcement is going to be on the Go Home Raw before the Rumble.
Yeah, so I'm happy about that. And then we got...
So, spoiler alert, Roman is the cover guy for...
Seems like that's what we're getting, but hey, that's okay. We'll see what the special edition is. Real American plays, and Pat loses his goddamn mind. Jimmy Hart
Here's a question,
out.
randomly, I just saw this. And everybody always says this every time there's a new game coming out. If they add something different to the game, what would you have them add?
Ooh, I liked years ago where they had, like, you created your own person and it didn't have a predetermined story. Like, it had more of a branching story where you could kind of take your own path. You went through NXT and that kind of thing. I wish it wasn't everybody had the same story. I would like to have branching stories where there's different outcomes depending on when you lose, win, and whatnot.
Like a choose your own adventure thing.
Exactly, but make it feel like a real career in WWE. They tried to do that, but they made everybody have the exact same outcome, the same story, the same rivals, and it just got to feel very flat, and it fell apart as the years came. So I would like more of a, as you said, choose your own adventure, and more narrative driven content.
I want one very simple thing, and I don't know how games work, but I can't imagine this would be too hard to put together. I want to be able to have matches in the double ring even when you're not in a War Games match.
There has to be a way for them to do that.
I'm sure
there is. So.
Because because if you do Survivor Series on the current game, and first of all, cool that we can do War Games.
Yeah, no kidding.
But if you go through a Survivor Series, it'll do the War. As it goes through the card, it'll be like single ring, double ring for the War Games match,
and then back to the single ring. Yeah, I've seen that.
If you watch Survivor Series, they have done stuff, and they try to keep it to one ring, obviously.
Yes,
but I would love to just have that as like
look at what happened with LA Knight and Shinsuke
thing.
Nakamura.
Yeah.
If he didn't hit the metal in between the rings that connected them, would we have a new champion?
Point. Look at you making my point for me.
That's right, buddy. Hey,
I just think it'd be like more open concept, open platform type thing, because when you do it, and it's got the cages up in the crowd instead of on the rampway, so I don't know what that's about. But then they disappear when you're having the rest of your matches, and the other ring disappears. And
so that would be a great technical thing for them just to keep in the ability to keep the second ring throughout. That's a great, like you said, narrative standpoint to make everything feel consistent and more.
Can you imagine how much fun a ladder match would be in a double ring?
No kidding.
Because you could have people stuck fighting each other in another ring while somebody else goes and grabs the money in the bank or something like that.
I was going back and like watching World War III with like the triple cage match and all that crazy shit from WCW times, and it's just like, oh my god.
The cage from Ready to Rumble?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Where there was multiple layers to it. And
Let's make David Arquette the champion.
What a nightmare. Liz did say, though, that Raw in Atlanta apparently will be featuring Goldberg, which makes sense because he'll be announcing his retirement match coming up soon as well. So crazy that we're getting so many retirements this year and so many big moments, but Goldberg, Rock, Cena, there's a lot to be excited for.
Do you think his retirement match is being one of the matches on John Cena's retirement tour?
No, but
I wouldn't mind that,
I wouldn't mind that.
It would just be a spectacle for a spectacle's sake, like a 5-minute exhibition almost.
That's a real Saudi show matchup, if anything.
See, I don't think so. I think you make that, like, they do their short 5-match cards that you and I go back and forth on. I think they should be longer because I'm right.
Yeah.
But on one of apparently they're doing Backlash in Mexico this year. Maybe that hasn't been disproven just yet. Like, put together your 5-match Backlash Mexico card and then say, oh yeah, by the way, we're also going to throw in a 5-minute exhibition. Oh, tell me that your 5-minute exhibition match with a 5-minute time limit is not just going to be two guys like smacking each other in the titty.
Unlimited finishers. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Could be something.
He goes to spear him and he lands in an AA.
Well, Speaking of, Saudi staples, we did get the one, the only Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan came out. He's got Jimmy Hart running out behind him, waving the American flag. And
plugging his beer.
Cole did say they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Hogan, and I'm not sure that they're wrong either. They're not. I mean, talk about a staple of the industry and a true legend. Hogan, he gave us WrestleMania, essentially. He gave us, the end of the territories, and he was getting booed out of the building. Let me tell you something, brother. They just ripped him apart. It was the liberal crowd of California, but I don't think it had to do with political standings and Trump and all of that. It might be a little part of it, but I feel like more.
I wish I'm not okay. I'm an asshole and I want to watch the world burn. I wish he had shown up on the show in the shirt that he was wearing when he got off the plane. Or he's like, let's do Netflix tonight, and he like added Triple H and WWE and Netflix and everybody in the post,
right?
And it's just
going.
like it's like the MAGA maniacs, Trump, Pence, and Hogan.
Oh,
I'm like, please wear that on Raw.
That would have been something.
Please wear that on Raw.
He said that Netflix and WWE are the greatest tag team of all time, and he takes off his beer shirt and rips it to reveal the Netflix T-shirt.
Netflix goes Raw.
And LA just ripped him apart. It was funny, but again, I think we know why. We got more of a preview for next week, so obviously we have the tournament finals for the Women's Intercontinental Championship title debut. Dakota Kai taking on Lyra Valkyria.
Rumored to be main eventing.
Should be. Then we have Sheamus taking on Ludwig Kaiser. And that'll be another banger. Chad Gable versus a mystery luchador, Penta. And then, of course, we have Damian Priest taking on Finn Balor in a street fight. So that right there, what I wanted to bring up is the street fight happening really brings credence to your, hey, let's finish up with everything Judgment Day related on Raw, and let's get them to SmackDown, because they're wrapping up the Finn Balor storyline. So the Terror Twins now have truly destroyed Judgment Day, and they said
in the interview, the ones that you guys apparently didn't see,
no.
Basically it was Damian Priest hyping up Rhea Ripley because she just got her title back and whatever. But also it sort of blended into, okay, you're done with the Judgment Day, and after next week I'm going to be done with the Judgment Day too. And that doesn't really happen if they're all still on the same show. Like, doesn't Finn Balor come back and get his revenge the day after, and whatever the case may be? If they all move over to SmackDown, that's fine. I don't have any illusions. I don't think he would win, but I think at some point Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes is an interesting match that I'd like to see.
Yeah. And then
whatever they do, man, even if they dissolve the Judgment Day at this point, I want them to elevate. I want them to elevate Finn.
Yeah. And one thing
prominent but not main event. He's been a very, 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 very important mid-carder.
Yes, I was going to say that. One of the things I've wanted to see for years is to see Finn Balor on top as a true, detestable, badass heel.
I said I wanted to see Finn versus Punk at Mania, preferably Demon Finn, but
that would be.
I don't think I'm getting any of that.
I don't think we are either. But Punk and Finn,
unless
at some
Punk
point
goes to SmackDown, which isn't happening. Let's be real.
I don't think it's happening, but I think we're going to get less and less of the hard brand split going forward. Like, we're going to have Raw matches, we're going to have SmackDown matches, but I think we're also going to get people floating between as well because of the Netflix demand.
Well, this is the thing that I've said, and I know I keep saying it to you, and this is where the dichotomy of you being in the States and me not being in the States gives us two different points of view here.
Yeah.
But, like, every time they say, oh, well, they're going to load up Raw because Raw's on Netflix now, and I'm like, yeah, that's an American thing. Everything's on Netflix everywhere else.
Exactly, everywhere else, literally worldwide. Everything.
It's like we had that little bit of time where everybody was on USA Network, but at least Raw and SmackDown were, and NXT was for a week, and then they all sort of overlapped.
They all switched.
But
now
it's like,
we've got 4 networks for 4 shows. So,
but it's like, who are you competing with if you're all on the same channel? USA Network can't have Roman Reigns because USA Network wants him.
Technically 5 channels at this point, because if you add in, NBC is on for Saturday Night Main Event as well as Peacock, the CW, USA, and Netflix. So we've got 5 channels essentially, or networks to keep up with. That's
insane.
The one
thing I don't think we get Saturday night's main event on Netflix up here. So we'll have to see.
I don't believe you do, so that might be a Peacock thing for you guys. And I don't know what you do.
We don't have Peacock.
Yeah, you don't do Peacock, so you guys might have to.
It might just be on NBC. That's how I had to watch the last one.
I imagine it will be then. So
it'll be the straggler for us then.
One of the things I wanted to mention too earlier was like when Liv Morgan made her entrance, they had the drones outside of the arena making the different light shapes and coming together like that.
The drones for so many people was so awesome.
And one of the best ones, really, that I loved a lot was when they formed the championship belt in the sky for the Saturday Night Main Event promo with Hogan and everything there, the commercial. So seeing the title in the sky made out of drones was awesome. And knowing how much drones are a problem for people right now just made it even better. Punk makes his entrance. We brought it up before.
Say, sorry.
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Because we're talking a lot about the production stuff. And the drone shots are pretty cool all night. But that low-flying drone that completely looped the arena more than once during Jey Uso's entrance was unreal.
I loved it. It was so damn good. And I'll tell you, the way they came down through, and then, like you said, they looped around the entire crowd, and the crowd was going nuts with Uso and Scott. So really a cool thing to see. Love the production tonight.
I thought he was going to perform. Didn't they say at one point that
he was going to perform the Raw theme, and then they said it again? So I don't know if that got cut. Originally, the time frame
when he stood there, he had a joint in his hand as well.
Yeah.
But he had a microphone in his hand when they showed him up in the crowd, and then the music just started playing. It's the same as, it's not a big deal because we got the result we wanted anyway, but they had originally advertised Liv and Rhea as being a last woman standing match, and then they took it back.
That's what I was going to ask you as well, because when we talked about it earlier, even in the description box down below of this video, we have the card, and it was supposed to be last woman standing match for the World Women's Championship, so I was a little disappointed that they changed that. And we were supposed to have Travis Scott perform as well. And he was supposed to perform the Raw theme. So interesting that we didn't get that.
I can see why they pulled it back, though, because with the way the first match went, and it was one of those kind of like what we said about WrestleMania, how Cody and Roman was an awesome spectacle, but it was more of a segment than a match. And they made a mini version of that at the beginning of this week's Raw, which isn't a bad thing. But after all of that, which is almost made more fun by all the interference, do you want to just book another match right after that? Because it was the next match that we saw.
Yeah.
That was the exact same thing where you would have like all the members of the Judgment Day come in like
just tons of interference, which we kind of got a little bit of, but
two totally. Well, yeah, but you had interference that was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing that because it's a regular match. Versus,
they were stacking the deck against
we expected this because anything can happen.
Exactly, and I do want to give a little shout out too to Vanessa Hudgens. She had the Hot Girls Love Pro Wrestling T-shirt on underneath her jacket that she flashed, so that was cool. But yeah, no, you're not wrong. So that seems probably like a good idea as to why they went ahead and managed to just fucking scrap that entirely. But
hey, we got a street fight next week, so I'm sure there'll be all kinds of shenanigans in there.
No doubt about it. They probably switched some of the booking to that when that
Liz in the chat saying Cole admitting how out of shape he was doing the yeet was
saying
great,
that
and
he
then
needed oxygen during the break.
He decided to go sit down while the other ones were doing it.
Yeah, I think he's like, I need a break, and then he's got everybody around him. And he said when he got back from break that he had to go and get oxygen. I also love Cole saying that Colby Lopez, now known as Seth Rollins from Iowa, traveled to the East Coast to be trained by CM Punk, was a broke bitch that couldn't afford training and had to go back home. And like holy shit, how their careers connect, and the fact that they brought up his real name. We're in that realism era as well. And having that thrown in,
it's still kind of funny because it's become so not common, but it's become a typical jab that people throw when they're trying to say that they're not taking Punk seriously, to call him Phil.
Yes,
but yet we don't do it with Seth Rollins because I guess because Seth is a real name, whereas CM Punk it's like Edge. It's not a real.
It's a nickname. Cope.
And that's going to be doing a lot of coping after tonight. But it's still kind of funny that calling him Colby sticks out so much more than calling CM Punk Phil.
Yes.
And I like that they told the story. They said, like Seth Rollins is, all bitter and angry and whatever, but then they went on to explain, hey, here's every reason why Seth Rollins should be bitter and angry.
Exactly.
So
And when you look back at Seth,
Michael Cole was trying to tell two stories. He did it well, mind you, but he was telling two stories at once.
But think about how much Seth has lost as well. When
It's
you
true.
look back recently, I mean, he got destroyed all 3 times by Cody Rhodes.
Yep.
Then he gets destroyed by Roman and everything that happens at Mania, losing the tag match, and then he loses.
Hobbled
to
out there
Drew.
on one leg in his Shield cosplay.
To get destroyed, and then he gets destroyed by Drew and all of that, and it just continues on and on. So we've seen him just Bronson Reed, and Bronson Reed was one of like the secret guilty pleasures of mine tonight, because he was just absolutely
He was doing his tweet along.
hilarious.
So I expect to return to WWE and be smoking blunts on Raw too.
Yes, that was hilarious. He's like, oh, you would have gotten me to go ahead and give Seth, he said, due to injury, you guys miss out on me making Seth and Punk both call me daddy, then rip a fat
dear.
bong and give Hulk Hogan 12 tsunamis.
Nice. Well, apparently he wants to tsunami Hogan and Flair, because Flair announced this week that he thinks he's got one more match in him.
Oh, God, no. Please, no.
But no, I think before he started doing all... Sorry for anybody listening tonight. I've got the driest voice in the world.
It's okay. Hey, we're running late. It's been a long day. We're still talking. We're on the main event. This match, we talked about it before. We got a holy shit chant before it ever started. We got the throttling jacket on, worn by Punk with the triple X's on it. Like you said, bringing back to light of his best feud in AEW and his exit. So this was basically Punk getting attacked and Rollins getting the better of him. I mean, again and again, Rollins would argue with the ref. What was his name? Rob Zapata, I think it is. And just they would bark and argue with each other as Seth didn't want to ever let up. So Punk hoists Rollins up at one point, but Rollins elbows his way out of it and then hits him with shots to the back of the head, and the crowd starts booing, and then he gets his own GTS, and it's probably one of the cleanest and best-looking GTSs to the forehead that I've seen in some time. And Punk rolls out to the outside. That was a great way to break, the attempt of the pin.
Let me throw in a unpopular and probably surprising take from me here, because I could watch these guys wrestle for another 20 minutes. Like, these guys are so good together. There was a bit in the middle where it got a little bit Austin Rock, where it's like finisher, 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 your finisher, your finisher, your finisher. They didn't take it over the point of being like parody, but I think a little bit in the middle they got kind of close, and I think there was almost a point where they pulled back from it and said, like, let's do some stuff.
Yeah,
you can do that really well, where it's done with sarcasm, where it's done to just rub salt in the wounds, and there's the other part of it where you do it too much and it's just, oh, that guy did that guy's move? What?
Yeah.
And they walked that line, but they got me enough to thinking about, okay, is it just going to be one of those matches? But then they pulled it back, and I go right back to, I could have watched these guys wrestle for another 20 minutes.
Yeah, because the buckle bomb into the stomp, I was like, oh, this could be it. And then Punk gets pinned near the ropes, and I'm like, oh, he's going to get his foot up. He does. Yeah. And then this is where the overrun starts. If this is awesome chance, then we get fight forever chance. Crowd, like you said, they lost their way a little bit with the Uso match, but they came back for this. And he gets Punk onto the turnbuckle, and eventually Punk slaps Seth, but Seth runs back up, hits him with a great superplex, goes for the Falcon Arrow, but Punk reverses it into a GTS.
The superplex looked like it wrecked.
Oh, it was incredible.
And it's because, saying this I'm not making like a vanilla midgets joke or whatever, but like neither one of them has got like a super amount of meat on them. So, and when it's like smaller guys, you've got that built-in mentality of, oh, they don't have any padding. That's just their spine hitting the floor.
That and the fact of the strength that they use to put Punk up on the corner and then to belay him backwards and throw him over his head. Like you said, too. So Then Rollins, selling great, stumbles, falls all over, then falls onto the shoulders of Punk.
I thought that was
in
so
the
fucking
position
good.
for the GTS. Could not have sold this better. Punk gets up, hits him with the second GTS, which looks better than the first. Gets on top of Rollins, gets the 3 count. Punk wins. It's about just under a 20-minute match. Rollins even had blood on the right side of his face to where the GTS landed the second time. So now the show ends, and we get right into the post-show. So waiting to start here. Rollins is miserable. He's upset.
I haven't seen any of the post shows, so this is all going to be new to me.
Punk is on his knees in the middle of the ring, and Rollins starts to head to the back, and that's when everybody starts to time in, and Punk gets interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and he's like, 46 is just a number. I took a 10-year break. I haven't wrestled on Raw in 11 years, but I'm back better than ever. I'm coming for all the gold in 2025. This was the biggest thing I've ever done. He said this match was for everybody in the world. It was for Chad Gilbert. It was for Chris Bay. And he said he was censored from something he said before adding, "Look at me now." So he got bleeped out a little bit. I'm curious what they said on the YouTube. And then as he walked towards the back.
Nice of him to drop Chris Bay.
Right? So on his way back, he says, "The Rumble is next. I'm coming for Cody, and I'm the best in the world. And I'll be back next week."
I'm coming for Cody.
He said he's coming for Cody, and the Rumble is next.
Oh, my God, we're getting it.
So...
Oh, my God.
I could not
Jake, you just made my night, buddy.
Right? I could not be more excited with what happened after Raw went off the air. It builds to next week. And now, think about what we're going to get at the Rumble here. We are going to get a moment of Cena versus Punk. Whether or not we get a match from them throughout the year, which I think we will, and I still hope it's Money in the Bank.
Let me put this out to you. And I'm sorry, like I know we got to stop like just booking all these like cute little things and
fantasy
just,
matches.
See how the Rumble goes. But like, can you imagine if 1, 2, and 3 are Cena, Rock, Punk? Because you've got Cena, Rock, Punk, Punk, Cena.
Just all of it makes sense. All of it adds up.
All the stuff.
They didn't have the reliance on legends tonight in the sense of where they did before, where it's like they didn't just march people out. Yes, they had celebrities in the audience, but they would usually do the, hey, look who's here kind of thing. Instead,
and what did we say before as well? And we said this back at Survivor Series. They didn't rely on surprises either.
No, they told you what was going to happen. Here's who's going to be there. You knew The Rock was coming. You knew that Punk was having the main event. Like this is the layout. This is the formula.
But there's speculation of, speculation of Becky coming back, speculation of Charlotte coming back, speculation of, oh my God, is somebody going to come through the transfer window tonight? Well, there was people in the backstage area, and there was a SmackDown match on this Raw, but it was announced.
And again, we got that 5-match card that Triple H loves in this 3-hour format. The matches all could have probably been a little bit longer or a little bit more.
In a different world, this would have been a really cool spot to debut an NXT star, but at the same time, would they have gotten buried under the Netflix of it all?
Possibly. And that's the thing, and especially on a show with Rock, Cena, Undertaker, Punk, there's so many gigantic names. So I'm glad the women's IC title didn't get rushed and cut down to 10 minutes.
Well, this is the thing, though. Like, there's things that they can spread out. Like, if we went the next 3 weeks, and 1 week the thing to talk about was the Penta debut.
Yes.
And then the following week was the thing to talk about was the first ever women's Intercontinental Champion. And the following week was the final, one final beat between Finn and
Damian Priest.
There we go.
I gotcha.
Those things would be enough to carry another couple of weeks, but that's all shit we're getting just next week.
And we still have so long until the Rumble as well that we keep stating over and over again. It's not till February at this point, so we've got the rest of the month to get through to build. And to be
fair to the people that are going to criticize this show with some criticisms that I think are valid, when we get into next week, it's going to be the first week of this is what a normal Raw looks like. We're not going to be as wowed by all the tech stuff in the Intuit Dome.
It's not going to be as fresh and as new. But
we're not going to get an opening Rock promo, and then we're not going to get an interrupting John Cena announcement, and then we're not going to get a Hogan walk in. We might get the Undertaker for reasons because Braun Breaker was there talking shit.
Yeah.
But
and anything is possible
be...
in that regard, and that's kind of the fun thing too, is that there's so many possibilities, there's so many things set up, there's so many what ifs, so many scenarios, so many things to look forward to that we didn't have even 2 years ago, never mind multiple years. I think back to 2019 and how terrible that year was for WWE in general, and the 6-second match with Brock and just so many disappointments. The dog food with Roman and Baron Corbin, and it just was terrible. Time would go on, and nothing would advance. We would have the same feuds with the same matches. How many times did we see a la Baron Corbin and Roman take each other on SmackDown, on Raw, on SmackDown, on Raw? Those things just kept rinse and repeating. I'm glad that we have possibilities.
They're showing that even that can be done well, though.
Yes,
because
and
back
we're not
in the
getting
day,
it constantly, though. It's not every week.
But you know my old example of like when Raw was shit, but they had one match that they liked to do all the time, and it was Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy, and it was always good.
Yes.
It never went anywhere, but it was always good. Then for not so much the past 2 weeks, but the weeks before, what did we have now? We had Andrade and Carmelo, and no, it didn't end up with either one of them getting a title, but it ended up with the surprise arrival of Shinsuke Nakamura, and now two potential feuds that either one of them can have with him, as well as LA Knight being back in the chase.
Exactly, and it was ever branching and moving, and there were things progressing, as where before we would get Rey Mysterio, and and it was the same match every single week, and then him and Seth doing the same stuff over and over and over again. And then he's going to pop his eye out. It was like we got garbage after. Now you can have a match with anybody. It'll make sense. You can have a match that will be connected without a build, and it could feel like the biggest built match ever. We're getting things, and it feels like a happening. It feels like All In was a happening, and that's why it wasn't people that loved AEW. They loved wrestling, and overseas hadn't had a show like that in so long. So to have a Mania-style show, it was like, oh my God, everybody has to attend. This was a happening, but it was also a foundation laying, and now they have so much previous to build off of, but even off of now. Like, if you count this as story one, day one, and just go off of this show, there's
how
a
long
lot
do you
of
think
things
before
to build.
WWE runs something at Wembley?
I give it within the next 2 years.
Nice. So I told you I had two theories.
Yes.
Coming off the back of the Jay and Drew feud.
Yes.
So the first one was
as we're winding down, I got to hear these, sir.
So the first one is, I think it's cool that instead of picking which match was going to have a happy ending, they gave us 4 happy endings. Somebody's wrist is tired. The other thing, though, and it doesn't really apply to the women's match, so I have to kind of wipe that off the table for a second.
Okay.
But for the other 3 matches, there is a new, not a new stable, but the rumor of a new stable that other people have just been saying, like, hush hush under their breath in like offhand conversations and whatever. And it's all about like frustrated superstars and whatever, and what frustrated superstars could come together. Who experienced failure tonight? 3 guys. Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. Kevin Owens tried to fuck over Roman and failed. Drew McIntyre tried to get his pound of flesh from Jey Uso and failed in a roll-up, which is going to drive him nuts.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And Seth Rollins is eaten alive by this issue, this long-standing issue that he has with Punk, and wasn't able to satiate that tonight. So
and he's had the hate for Punk, but he also hated Punk more recently too for working with Roman. So it all kind of ties back to the bloodline, to Roman.
It does tie back to the bloodline, but I want to have something else major come along that's not quite the bloodline. And if tonight is the single night that galvanizes that group, that KO, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre group, because they all experienced, like, 2 of them experienced loss, 1 of them experienced failure in Kevin Owens because he tried to fuck over Roman and it didn't work.
But they all did not accomplish their goal.
Exactly.
It certainly gives them
Drew's would be the most embarrassed, like, for how angry he is. and what sets them off.
And how much they lose, all three of them as well.
Yeah. Usually we talk about Kevin Owens, like how Kevin Owens is really good at going nuts.
Yes.
And like Kevin Owens kind of points out what's wrong with wrestling while he's in wrestling, which is kind of awesome. Drew McIntyre is a bit more of a crazy version of that. So not only losing, but losing like that on a night where his ultimate enemy, Roman Reigns, got his victory back because Kevin Owens failed. And Seth Rollins had to watch Roman Reigns win at the beginning of the night, watch Kevin Owens fail to get that thing, watch Drew McIntyre fail at getting at another member of the Bloodline, and then lose to his longtime rival CM Punk.
Yeah.
If the three of them aren't in a room together right now, just feeding off each other, they're missing a story beat there.
Yeah, then something they missed out on for sure. But see, that's what I love. I love how you have all of these like motivations and these issues and these things, and it's like, oh, that's cool. These connect, these work together. They don't have to be on the same page for them to have the same goal in the end. And decimation of the original bloodline really gravitates towards these three working together.
Well, the thing is, right now as well, and again, not so much with the ladies, they could use a little bit more of this, but for the guys, put a list of the roster up on the wall and throw 2 darts at the wall. You'll pick 2 random names, and probably within 6 people, you could say how those 2 names are connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spiderweb shit.
That's what I love, and it makes me so excited, and that's one of the things that really gets me going is the fact of how they manage to connect everyone to the point where it's logical. Logical booking is so important to me, you know, having proper storytelling and having things make sense. They would do these feuds at times, and you're like, well, how? Why? This doesn't feel right at all. And I see a lot of the Redmond interviews. I like the spot. I see the one with Damian Priest talking with her about Rhea. You know, there's a lot of those I look forward to also going back and catching. So it's interesting to see, hey,
she's really good too. She's like really, like, she doesn't totally get lost in who she's talking to. She's got a bit of personality herself. I really like Jackie Redmond. I hope they give her more stuff. If she's going to be doing filler stuff like that while you guys are unfortunately watching commercials, I'm going to be happy to see more of her because I think she's really good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And she's done very well. And hey, you know, even the ring announcer they moved from SmackDown to Raw has been great as well. So
Alicia Taylor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's been good since NXT.
Yeah.
When she got the call from NXT to SmackDown, I was like, fucking good for her. We got Mike Rome on NXT now, who's not bad, but I could kind of take him or leave him.
Yeah, no doubt. And I really loved how they had that red carpet entrance for all of the talent and the celebrities in front of the fans, with the red velvet ropes and the black
and the moving match graphics.
Yes, and
let's go.
That was awesome. Scarlett looked incredible in that blue velvet crush satin dress, and Karrion is amazing. He's probably one of the ones on the roster that I'm upset with the most because I look at him and he is just the total package. He really is. He can be this insane, devious, evil heel. He could be a push.
What's funny about him is when he wanted to be taken so seriously, nobody really, like, it didn't really click. But as soon as he got, like, he went from being like really, really serious and violent to being like a little bit crazy and kind of sarcastic and whatever. As soon as he got like a little bit of banter to him, he got scarier, but also he became more effective. Like, the way he absolutely bullies them is incredible. But he bullies them by like putting him in bad situations, and he puts him in bad situations by giving him all these fake compliments, and it's such a fucking gaslighty fucking nonsense thing. And it's like, supposedly they're going to try and do something with the Wyatts next week too, so Miz might be on a Wyatt hunt or something.
That would be great. And shout out to these two guys. It's funny as hell that all the fans are booing apart Hulk Hogan, and it just cuts to these two black guys sitting there in the arena with their arms crossed, just looking at each other, and they look at Hulk, and just everybody's booing. So funny. Just so goddamn funny. But like you said, you know, there really is so much that they can build up to, build off of, and so many things that they can accomplish. Just, I'm excited. I'm really excited. So
Yeah.
what's your final takeaway? What do we have?
Final takeaway is I'm more interested in next week when we settle back down into weekly stuff and what that looks like.
I am as well.
This was a mini PLE. I want to see what Monday Night Raw looks like on Netflix when it's just Monday Night Raw.
I do as well.
And it sounds like I'm damning a fun show. I want to see what normal is going to look like.
I do as well, because I mean we really don't know at this point. We don't.
And I get to see what NXT and SmackDown look like on Netflix too. Have I mentioned that?
You get it all on Netflix. You really do.
Giggity.
You get spoiled. You get to just take it.
Oh,
home
and I will
run
say as well, watching because I this is the first thing I've watched live on Netflix. The fact that like 30 minutes ahead of time there's a countdown to the show going live makes it feel even more like a pay-per-view.
Yes, it really does. Again, that happening feeling, like it's important. I saw people just streaming them, going ahead and being on, and you know, it's like, hey, let's get together.
What I love is
let's get ready for wrestling.
On that countdown screen, it's just like a really generic like background crowd shot, and if you look under the A of the Raw logo, it's a Simon Give Me an Up sign.
That's awesome. And then from there, you could just see the clock, count down, and it just makes people even more excited. So I got into the hype with it tonight. But, if
it's the actual final countdown.
Exactly. The real final countdown. And from this countdown, we will be on the Spaz Phoenix YouTube channel. You can check us out in the description box down below, or look up Spaz Phoenix Podcast on YouTube or any streaming platform, actually. You can find him all over the place. But we'll be breaking down, like we said, we'll go over SmackDown, New Year's Evil tomorrow night. We'll be discussing as well. And more on what's going on in the future with the state of wrestling. So, Spaz, let us know.
We will talk about the changes on SmackDown. We will obviously be talking about a certain cash-in that happened. A couple of news things that are worth mentioning, like the Saudi Rumble in 2026.
Yes,
we will
indeed.
also get a chance to look back on New Year's Evil and whatever happens tomorrow night. So check that out. We will be recording that either Wednesday or Thursday. It should drop Friday morning on your podcast feeds, Spaz Phoenix Podcast, wherever you listen to anything.
That's right. Go ahead and check that out. And like I said, you can go ahead and click in the description box down below. You can find all of Spaz's information down there. I would love to have more people join us, Liz, you especially. I'll get Discord up and running with the Skype audio. For whatever reason, they weren't playing nice together after the update today, so I wanted to get right into it and get live. We're already running late, but thank you all for hanging out and joining us yet again. We'll be live soon on the channel here to go ahead and break down the latest from Raw, SmackDown, and everything else. So make sure you guys go ahead, you hit that like button down below, subscribe, turn on notifications, because we'll be live again. But thank you all so much for hanging out. I appreciate it greatly. Happy New Year, and I hope you all, as always, stay sexy.